when things got hard, you never thought about quitting?
Never. Somehow it always worked out. And I've been in the industry for over 30 years. It always worked out. I don't know how. Maybe I'm just lucky. And maybe I could give you guys a couple pointers. Like, if you're starting out, I think an important thing is that you should try to develop your own voice, something that you can boutiquely call your own thing. And I think that's what's most important. It would separate you from other people that are in the industry, right? So I'm focused on a lot of high-tech sound design, which was kind of a boutique thing. So of course I wasn't getting all the gigs, I was getting a lot of like high-tech commercial gigs with like BMW or Verizon or AT&T, Sony, a lot of these companies that were looking for techie type sounds for their commercials or for their projects or even for the video game. When I was working in video game, a lot of the gaming companies, it was like, oh, Richard's going to be the perfect guy. We need like high-tech, like UI sounds. There's no one better that does that type of stuff than him. So we should give him a call, see if he's available to work on this. So I really try to focus on the areas that I felt like I do really well in, and then just kept pushing those areas. And then eventually the clients were like, Rich did a really killer job on this game. We need to hire him again because we want even more killer sounds again like that. Like, I think when people spread themselves out too thin, like trying to do too many things, it can kind of water down what you do. But if you focus on something that you know you're really good at and you like tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to be the best person at this. I want to be the guy that all the companies come to because I'm the only person that can do this weird thing that not many other people can do. You know what I mean? So I kind of got lucky. I got very lucky because I also took up on a lot of jobs that were challenging, very unsexy, unchallenging, very challenging jobs that somehow use sound design to enhance the user experience for some of these products, So, I remember working with Barnes & Noble on their Nook tablets, and I had to design all the sounds for them. They were a very difficult client. That was a tricky one because I had to make everything sound like very natural. I had to record sounds of like books, pages of a book, turning while if the user was scrolling on a page and on the tablet, it sounded and felt, even with the haptics, everything all had to feel like you were actually turning a page, So that was a lot of work. And then I had to record over a couple hundred books to get the pages right. It was very difficult to get it just right, to make it feel like you were actually turning a page. Something as simple as that, would take a long time to get it really, really right, to make it feel right, emotionally feel right, like psychologically, everything locks together, and you're like, that's a convincing gesture, working with the haptics and the movement of your hand. That's believable to me, It enhances the user experience. Yeah, it's fascinating, and we're getting into even more crazy stuff now with like artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is a very interesting area that I've been doing a lot of research in, as far as not only with music composition, but for sound design applications. And I've already worked on several projects with like Yamaha, for instance. I worked on their smart morph technology, which is a very interesting concept as far as using ML-based technologies where you feed it data sets, say like 6-7 data sets within the montage synthesizer. This is what it's implemented. And for people who aren't really good at programming FM, because FM can be very daunting synthesis method to program in and get good sounds out of, they developed this ML-based system that allows you to pick, say, like 6 or 7 of your favorite FM patches and load them into the montage. What the montage will do in the ML AI mode is it will generate 1,024 generative variations off of these 6 patches that you've chosen. So you chose a bass patch in slot 1. It will give you 1,000 variations off that bass sound that's very similar to that bass sound, but it'll give you, variations. And what you do is you take inside the interface, it's a touch screen, you have a trajectory vector that's like a vector line that you can place anywhere graphically on these regions on the screen. And the way that the screen is represented it looks like, like a map of different countries or something. But those
Yeah.
maps are different colors, they're different shapes and stuff, and it's the algorithm that's created these variations and that's placed them in these different regions on the screen. So you can travel through them to hear these different sounds when you drop one of these trajectory vector lines, and you can even automate that with an
Wow.
LFO or a mod wheel or modulation. So you could just kind of like move your finger and find one. Oh, that preset's great. You can stop, and then you can save your preset from that. And so you're basically just traveling through all these derivatives of all your favorite presets. And you can even mix presets too. You can mix like 2 different presets and come up with like combinations of like a bass and bell tone, or a bass and pad sound, or a bass and some non-musical noisy sound design crazy thing to see what happens. It's very
Yeah.
interesting, some of the sounds you get, and it doesn't take much effort. It's basically finding all of the possible variations that you could get based off these data sets that you've inputted into the algorithm.
Where do
And
the
then
data sets come from?
the data sets were actually created by me.
Oh,
Yeah, I was the one, the sound designer responsible. So I spent 6 months creating hundreds and hundreds of data set sounds that would be fed into the ML engine. So we tried to pick a lot of popular stuff. We tried to pick a lot of wild stuff in between. So it was a lot of bass lead, pads, pluck sounds, you name it, percussive. And I went in and designed a whole library
yeah.
that would feed the ML engine. But you could continue training it. You don't have to train it just with sounds that I created. I just had to create a basic set that users would be able to load up when they buy the unit, and they'd have 128 data set models that they could import in. Better than having nothing, but so they
Yeah.
could at least understand the concept. And then you have the ability, using your own imported data sets, you can make your own data sets, and
Yeah.
which is extremely powerful. Yeah, you offer that. Like, it's some people might say it's cheating, but it's a fast way. A lot of people have much less time to work on music these days. Like, they've got jobs, they've got kids like me, and
Hmm.
you want to get to stuff. You want stuff to happen faster and not have to spend hours laboring to get some of these sounds, when you could just use something like this AI ML based FM engine that
Hmm.
can generate many, many, many infinite combinations of different variations of sounds. Just snap of a button.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've come leaps
Yeah.
and bounds from downloading from torrent sites sound packs and sifting through sound by sound by sound, and no
Yeah.
rhyme or reason to the organization structure. But now we're sort
Yeah.
of like in an age where, yeah, you can have these data sets and just kind of like let the machine learn your patterns,
And they're
and
only going to
sort of,
train it
yeah.
with more. Yeah, we're
Hmm.
seeing emergent drums and TensorPunk plugins are starting to show up, which are doing generative percussion samples, where you can they've trained it with, like over 10,000 data set models, and they can generate completely copyright free, brand new, never heard before drums, snares, kicks, hi-hats, closed
That's
hi-hats,
crazy.
crashes, and stuff like. And I've already been experimenting with a lot of this stuff. I've been keeping up with just about every third party plugin manufacturer that's been investigating AI ML based technology. So,
Hmm.
not only in the applications of sound design, but also for music composition. I'm also looking for analyzing a track, studying the tempos, the key changes, and all that stuff, and then being able to give you derivative versions of that track that you fed it, whether it's your own track or if it's somebody else's track. And this is an idea that has been around for many, many years. But they're just now starting to have the computing power to do this stuff. And I think 4 or 5 years from now, we may not be able to tell the difference between an AI generated pop song from a song that was created from a human, because it's getting scary, eerily. The
Good.
first stages are showing some really interesting promise. So, you know, whether that's a
So
good thing or a bad thing, I think a lot of people will disagree with me. It's like, well, then who's even making the music anymore? Is it the algorithms that are making the music? That then where's the human
yeah,
input in this? And I can see the argument for both sides. So I think we might be becoming just more curators, music
sure,
curators at this point in the future. So it's all interesting topics to discuss. I think while we're in this ever changing world of technology that's moving in this direction, whether we like it or not. We're just either embrace it or you don't.
absolutely. And yeah, you might. I mean, you're playing a role in the development and the uh, just the pushing forward of the technology that might make us obsolete one day. So
It could,
um,
or
mhm.
maybe it wouldn't. I'm
Maybe it
all about
won't.
abusing it and using it wrong. I want to confuse the algorithms. I don't want to use it in a traditional way. I want to feed it just a bunch of nonsense and see what comes up. Feed it like 10 different styles that have nothing to do with each other and then see what it comes up with. Like I
Yeah.
really want to push it and see what has never been done before and see what would happen. Just confuse it, like confuse the algorithm and then give it
Mm.
stuff where it's like, what are you giving me? I don't even know how to, you never know. You
Yeah.
might get something you've never heard before. And that really ultimately, it's like I said in the beginning, that's a goal for me. I'm always going to try to find a way to break the system to get something I've never heard before, even if it means doing the most ridiculous, absurd thing possible.
Yeah.